gentlemen, I'm Shadow, the Otherworld Gamer, and welcome to another Batman movie and game review. Today, we're covering the 1992 Tim Burton film Batman Returns, along with its Sega Genesis counterpart. Now, the movie was one of the more controversial Batman films made. It was partly because it was really dark and messed up in terms of the characters, along with what happened, which also included Batman shoving a time bomb onto one of the thugs. Spoiler alert. Now, I never took any personal offense to any of that, even as a kid when I first saw it. In fact, I always did like this dark and gritty story about Batman, and this one I just liked. But if anything, though, I felt the movie moved a bit slow in some parts. But that's just some nitpicking on my part. But before we begin, let's do a quick character roll call. Let's start off with the main hero. We got Michael Keaton returning as Batman. And like the first time, he proves that he is able to highlight the aspects of being Batman. I'm glad they kept him for the second movie in here. I'll give a more detailed overlook when I get to the original Batman movie review later on. Next up is Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. This is the Catwoman we all love. We can't forget that homemade costume really brings out the best in the character, and not to mention the appeal. And of all the people to play her, it should be Michelle Pfeiffer. Yes, there was a couple of actresses before, but due to circumstances weren't unable to play. But it's not just because she's a good actor and is hot looking, but also she was once in a relationship with Michael Keaton, so the chemistry was naturally there, which helped play up the character chemistry quite good. Next up is our main villain, the Penguin, as played by Danny DeVito. Now, judging by the actions you'll see in this film, he is probably the most heinous of all Batman villains in the original franchise. Now, Danny DeVito played the Penguin character good. I think the main reason why they chose him was because of his size, not a knock on him though. And it's not often you're able to secure such role due to size and height alone, at least on the short side. But hey, it goes to show some advantages and disadvantages. But Penguin himself is unlike his comic book form, but rather a lot more evil and disgusting and not high class. And we will see that later on. The last of the main characters is a shrewd businessman by the name of Max Schreck, as played by Christopher Walken. It's entertaining to see him in just about any role, especially when he gets to play the villain role, although here, he's more of a subtle villain in this case. It's movie time, so let's get right to it. This opening makes me question who's really the evil in this movie, the main villain or his parents, because here they try to drown their somewhat disfigured and mutant-looking son, aka the Penguin, into a freezing river. What fucking snoots! How fucking dare they? Not only is this fucking awful parenting, but also they're gonna unleash a mad terror upon Gotham. Idiots! Okay, so after the credits roll, we move forward into the future. 33 years to be exact, in present-day Gotham, where the corrupt business tycoon, that is Max Schreck, he's conducting some business before he goes out to deliver a speech for the festive people of Gotham, as it is near Christmas time. We see his secretary, Miss Selina Kyle, through these scenes. We also see something lurk in the sewers.
Oh, but you will.
Some chaos begins to ensue, and Batman finally bursts onto the scene, showing off some new moves, including the Batmobile getting in on the action. He even makes first contact with Selina. We cut over to Max Schreck getting kidnapped, and thus we see our first glimpse of the dreaded Penguin as he shows off his umbrellas and compares himself to Schreck. And now he wants Shrek to help him get a good rep on the surface world, and is almost gleeful to use blackmail to do so. After doing that, Shrek ultimately agrees to help him. Going back to Selena, we have a couple of scenes with her in it. Here, she has to return to the office to sort a few things out and act like a curious little cat, which ultimately does lead to Max Shrek pushing her out the window. This was because of her uncovering a hidden plot for one of his future projects, namely one he's been trying to push. Talk about curiosity killing the cat. Oh, come on! It was begging to be said. You know it! Now, you know this shit wouldn't happen in real life, so yeah, I think it's a big load of bullshit. And it gets worse as Selena goes home and has a fucking mental breakdown, which results in her transforming herself into Catwoman. Now talk about a complete 180 personality change at the drop of a dime.
I don't know about you, Miss Kitty, but I feel so much yummier.
This is where the movie really begins to drag. Penguin reveals himself after a stage fiasco, which then leads to him, after he reveals his real name, running for mayor of Gotham City. And after that, we see Catwoman breaking into Shrek's store, just straight up vandalizing it. You know, the more I see this scene, the more I believe that this scene made a giant portion of a generation get into bondage and S&M. I fucking love this scene. Easily one of the best scenes of the movie. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The next bit has Batman beat up some Red Triangle Circus thugs before he runs into the Penguin. Catwoman comes out of the mall and it just straight up blows it all to hell. Which then leads to Batman chasing her on the rooftops, which leads to their first official flirting scene, and them inflicting some nasty wounds on each other, and this.
Saved by kitty litter.
Okay then. I highly doubt it would have actually happened, but hey, it could be worse. Moving on, we have Catwoman and Penguin meeting up to destroy Batman. It's actually one plan they discussed that actually makes sense. Said plan will include the Batmobile being hijacked and
Who are you?
this scene.
Talent Scout.
Come in. You know, I don't just like trees. I'm an actress as well.
Ooh.
What is that thing? A camera or something?
Say cheese.
Cheese.
And there we have it, folks. The one scene in this movie that brought blonde jokes to a whole generation. Typical blonde. And yes, I'm fucking aware that Catwoman in this movie is fucking blonde. Fuck off. So Batman and Catwoman fight yet again, while the Penguin kills the Ice Princess and makes it to look like Batman did it. Batman then flies off and begins to drive home, but because the Batmobile's been hijacked, it turns out that Penguin's driving it. Okay, I personally think this scene is pretty cool, but Batman quickly regains control and drives back home. Flash forward to the next day with the Penguin holding a mayor conference. Batman manages to hack the broadcast to play an audio clip of Penguin, which he conveniently took while being taken for a ride by the Penguin in the hijacked Batmobile. Now the Penguin has been exposed for the villain that he is.
My name is not Oswald. It's Penguin. I am not a human being. I am an animal.
And then, after the Penguin rants at his thugs, the true plot is revealed, and why he had that paper earlier. For the Penguin's ultimate plan is to wipe out every single firstborn infant in Gotham City.
It's a lot there.
This right here is probably the real reason why people got so disgusted by this movie. But for me, up until now, at least on a consistent basis, not a whole lot went on. There were a few parts that slowed the tempo down, and it didn't help the movie. Later on at a mask party hosted none other by Max, we see Bruce and Selina ultimately reveal their identities to each other. Penguin shows up to capture Max's adult son, but Max decides to take his place
instead.
Upon hearing Penguin's plot, Batman gets right into preventing it, and he does. But Penguin has a backup plan, and Batman also quickly turns it around. In fact, it's basically sending Penguin's pet penguins back at him, and then launch all those missiles at Penguin. I'll bet he was thinking, traitors! Afterwards, we see Catwoman beating up Max Schreck before the masks finally come off. Max tries to kill Bruce, but Selina takes the shot, and then gets shot again, multiple times, until she claims she only has 2 lives left, in which she fries herself and Max Schreck right to death. Penguin rises from the water, all bloodied up. It makes his final words seem significant, even if fucking crazy. I wonder. Oh, there is no turning back, is there? Look at me, look at me.
Look at me! This is what you become, this face, this demonic being!
You have become the evil you claim you want to kill! And it will be glorious that you have fallen and will act upon it. You will help me take this world straight to hell. But first, now, let's... Bruce is then seen being driven around, clearly distraught over what has gone down that Christmas Eve. He sees Catwoman's shadow, but it turns out to be her cat from earlier. Regardless, he takes it home with him. But right when the View takes a look at the moon, Catwoman reappears. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That has been my Batman Returns review. Not a bad movie if I do say so myself, but as I've said, it did drag a bit at times. Now for the game, let's take a quick look at the criminally underrated and equally frustrating game that is Batman Returns for the Sega Genesis. Act 1 is the rooftops of Gotham City. It's a good level to get used to the controls, because you will need to use a lot of them all through the 3 parts of it. You fight Catwoman first, and it's pretty easy if you know how to take advantage of all the platforms to use against her. And then after that, you go through a slanted building, which includes air vents and big boulders. The act boss, when you reach it, is essentially 2 statues, which you have to destroy while dodging their fireballs and cogs that they launch at you. Essentially, not too much really to this whole act, except that it's good for mastering controls, and to give you a small taste of what's to come, as even Penguin's fairly easy as well. Oh, and one last thing. If you can, save your weapons that you've gathered, especially your homing batarangs, because they'll be useful later in the game. Act 2 is Shrek's Mall. First section is getting into the mall. Not bad, and this is really the only true beat-em-up level. But the boss is Pimp Tensai? Yeah, let's just call him the Big Guard. And he's fucking fast and stays only on the banner. Getting up to him is difficult, and hitting him is even worse. This is why I said to save your homing batarangs, because they will make this boss far easier. But with some skill, it can be done without. Section 2 of this act is the mall itself, and because it was wrecked earlier in the film continuity, you have to be careful of the fire hazards that are there. And lucky for us, we get to whoop some new enemy ass as well. Again, make sure you know your controls, especially on how to use the grappling hook. We soon face Catwoman again, which can be a little bit harder, as you will always be on one level. The weapons here can really help you for sure. Then we fight Penguin again, which, holy crap! Giant ball of doom! Run, motherfucker, run! Which is all you can do, or you die. If you somehow manage to successfully dodge it, then you're pretty much clear to go. But don't count on it. I only managed it like once, and it wasn't here. This part of the boss, like I said, will kill you in one hit. So in other words, run! After that, well, you get to kick Penguin's derriere once again. And this time, he has flying buzzsaws to get in your way. But once you deal with him, we move on to the next act. Act 3 is called the Red Triangle Circus. I found this act to be generally long and repetitive, so not a whole lot to say about it. But it does live up to its act name, as it's using an abandoned carnival for us to do some thug brawling, and that includes the act-specific boss, which is a couple of clowns on unicycles. I do like the fact we get to fight on top of a carnival train, but in the end we fight Penguin again at a distance, and it's fairly easy this time around. But no Catwoman in this one. Now we're in Act 4, which means we're heading into the sewers. And it's basically a water slide level, but the physics for it are a bit, well, off. As in, you don't get blown off the slides when you land on them, and you can climb up, albeit a bit slow. Not much to the level in the end, but hot damn, that is one long-legged motherfucker that you have to face as the act boss. Continuing from there, the water turns into acid, so don't drink it, because you don't want the acid trip that follows. Again, no Catwoman, and we just go right to the Penguin and his cannon. This is somewhat easy, as you can destroy the cannon first, and the Penguin does take a while to fly off the other platforms. So if you're on the same one as him, you can kick his ass pretty fast. And for the final act, we are in the heart of Penguin's Lair. I can't stress this enough. Be fucking careful of where you walk. This is an ice level, and you will slip a lot. But it's a decent last act challenge for us to roll with, because they're saying we ain't bullshitting at this point, at least in this fucking level. It's also easy to get lost in here, at least for me first few times. Plus you'll also be fighting on some icebergs in the second part of the act. You then go right to the Penguin fight, no act special boss. You need to destroy the giant ducky first, but because Penguin uses his pets as a weapon, I recommend that you stay at a distance to destroy it. After that, Penguin flees and we chase after him. We fight him once again, but with a hazard in our way. Destroying the electric generator hazard will definitely help in this boss fight. Once that's done, it's a bit of a challenge, but generally easier to waste Penguin one last time. But is this the end? Not quite, as we have to go one-on-one with Catwoman one more time. Like in Act 1, use the platforms to your advantage. The credits will roll while you're in this fight as an obvious hint towards it being the last thing you absolutely need to do in this game. Defeat Catwoman as she falls to her doom. I guess she wasn't much of a cat after all. She doesn't land on her feet. And just to prove that it's all over, you get a nice giant "The End" upon the finish of the fight. This game is a nice hidden gem amongst the Genesis / Mega Drive library. Why people don't talk about this game more often, I just have no idea. So my final thoughts on the two is see the movie and definitely play the game. I'll even give this game a 7 out of 10, which is definitely a rank I would recommend for playing. Now sure, it's tough, but that was still in an era where gameplay was meant to be tough. Unlike a fair share of games today though, but no offense to them. Well, that's all for now. See ya!